Okay, so what do you mean by OOPS? First of all, it is object oriented programming structure. Okay, so what do you mean by object oriented programming structure? See, first we in the very first session, when we studied about different types of programming languages, Python is what we have said. Python is procedure oriented programming language, object oriented programming language, scripting oriented programming language, and modular oriented programming language is what we have discussed. Correct? Okay. So if any language which support functions, we said it is procedure oriented programming language. You have seen the concept of functions in length. Now, if any language which is interpreter based, that is scripting oriented programming language, you have been seeing this from the right from starting, right? If any language which supports concept of modules, which comes under modular oriented programming language, this also you have seen. Now the last programming paradigm, or last the programming feature now which you are getting introduced to is object oriented programming language feature is OOPS, right? If any language which supports the concept of OOPS principle, right, that is nothing but called object oriented programming language, right? So what do you mean by OOPS principles? Okay, OOPS structure or OOPS principles. Okay, so what do you mean by that? So basically, OOPS principles are nothing but some certain rules. Okay, OOPS principles are nothing but some rules or guidelines which we apply for any business application, okay, which we apply for some any business application, okay, or applications rather, right? So these are certain rules, certain methodologies, certain ways to we apply for certain business applications, okay, right? So which are all OOPS principles, sir? Okay, so following are different OOPS principles. OOPS principles. See, just write down encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. Okay, so these are all four varieties of OOPS principles, whatever we have under the concept of object oriented programming, right? So these principles are not only in Python, even if you explore C++, even if you explore Java, even if you explore .NET, any language which is of object oriented nature, the same principles you have to go ahead and study, right? So like if you are studying physics, how Newton laws are so important, right? 1 2 3 Newton's laws, right? Every physics student will be able to answer, tell these laws, right? Likewise, every student who is a developer, a programmer who know object oriented programming concepts, at any given point in time, if anybody asks about this principle, they should be able to answer them, right? So these are such important principles, okay? So what happens if we use this OOPS principles? So what is the advantage if we are going to gain is, see, so advantage of using OOPS principles are, you're going to get security is the very first factor. Security, Okay, and flexibility of utilizing the logic, flexibility, and reusability means function code executing multiple times. So that is the point to understand reusability. So you can execute the class code multiple times. So basically what is class and all we will discuss, but at a very outset try to understand the advantages whenever you are using the oops principles. So these are the three advantages majorly you will come across, and with this we also have some other small other minor advantages as well, but the point you have to understand is these are the major advantages we are going to get when we go for oops principle, right? See, why we have to go for oops principles when we have procedure oriented concept? That is what the very first point will hit in your mind, to that matter anybody's mind, right? Whenever procedure oriented programming language is doing good, right, functional coding, whenever that functional coding is doing good, why the reason people have invented oops programming language, right? Oops object oriented concepts, right? So that you have to be so much very much, you need to understand that point very much clearly, right? So first of all, examples of languages which follow oops principles. Okay, so just take some examples. So C++, Java, .NET, and of course we have to write Python as well. Okay, so there are many other more languages also, but these are on fingertips. I can point out some languages which use oops principles. Okay, right. So now let me try to make you understand why the reason we are going for oops principles. Okay, why not we can build every application using procedure oriented programming language? So this is what the thought comes in, right? What are the challenges I'm going to face when we use procedure oriented programming language? That you have to be pretty much clearly, you should understand. And so okay, these are the problems, that's the reason I am going ahead and implementing oops principles in my project. So you have to convince. Okay, so let's do that. If we implement business application in Python language using procedure oriented mechanism, okay, it looks like below. So what you do is just write down this, and schema of a project we will try to understand. Okay, so just take this. If we implement the business application in Python language using procedure oriented mechanism, it looks like below. So let me go ahead and show one small schema, one small example. Okay, so I am going to work on a banking application. Okay, bank application. So where in bank application, let us say you are coding on customer module and employee module. So bank application in procedure oriented mechanism. Okay, if you do this, what happens? See, so what all procedure oriented programming language, if you are writing a program, what all properties of a module you will bring in? You will bring in global variables, right? And you will bring in functions, correct? So what is the other property of a module which we have to yet to see? Yet to see is classes, right? Classes is also one of the property of module, but we have not yet got introduced to it. So for now, your knowledge is, you know how to write a global variable, you know how to write a functions, and this together if you're writing, we call it as a procedure oriented program, right? So let's proceed now. So just write down. So I am going to write customer module, cbal, okay, e name, employee data, eid, esal. Okay, so def deposit, now def withdraw, def transfer, hra, def def da. Okay, so just take this, right? See, here what I have done, altogether total I have defined some global variables, six global variables, right? And some six functions, correct? Right, in which customer name, customer address, customer bal, these are three variables which belongs to customer deposit. Okay, customer, this deposit is customer function, withdraw is customer function, transfer is customer function, right? Okay, now the hra, house rent allowance, so this is for employee, right? pf, provident fund, is for employee, and if I go down it will be da, daily allowance for employee. So these are all employee operations. Okay, so three customer operations, three employee operations, and three customer variables, three employee variables. Okay, equally I have defined here for now. Okay, so basically what the point you have to understand is there are two modules we are going to implement, and some data is customer data, some amount of data is employee data. In this diagram, in this program I have shown like equal 50-50, but it can be differ also, right? So, right, so this is how your procedure oriented programming mechanism looks like, because hardly you can use global variables and functions, not more than that. Okay, so what are the challenges we face when we do programming in procedure oriented programming language is what you have to understand. Okay, so let me highlight the very first challenge. Okay, okay, so what is the very first challenge? Problems in procedure oriented mechanism. Okay, so problem in procedure oriented mechanism, right? So the very first challenge is we are missing security for global variables, right? See, customer data is missing security from employee functions. So what are the employee functions? So these are all, bottom three are employee functions. Okay, these are employee functions, and the above three are customer functions. So basically customer data is missing security from employee functions and vice versa, in the sense employee data is missing security from customer functions. So what is this customer function and employee function? How we are missing security means, see, basically whenever an employee is coming and executing your logic, obviously he will execute his logic. Execution happens in the function, right? You will write function with some logic, correct? Okay, so whenever the functions are getting executed, unnecessarily we are showing the other module data. Okay, that is, when customer functions are getting executed, employee data is visible, and when employee functions are getting executed, customer data is visible. So if you have to understand this concept, let me give a small diagram. See, there is a room. Okay, you have one entry here. Okay, and here you have your niece or nephew toys. Okay, toy 1, toy 2. Okay, so likewise you have multiple toys, n number of toys you have of your niece or nephew. Okay, right, in the same room, you kept first aid kit. Okay, first aid kit or your medicine box, I can tell you. Okay, first aid kit or medicine box, medicines. Okay, so whose medicines are these medicines are our grandfather medicines, right? So just try to understand. So your niece, whenever your niece is coming inside, let's say whenever your niece is coming inside, you are telling to your niece, hey, you should only use your toys, you should not touch grandfather medicine box or first aid kit. Okay, right, so this is what you are telling to your niece. Now let's say your grandfather is there, your grandfather is for your grandfather, you are telling, hey grandfather, you go towards corner of the room so that you will find out your medicines. Okay, you don't have to go straight. Okay, because if you go straight, your my niece toys are there. Okay, right, so two people items you are putting in one room. Okay, now let me highlight some points. See, whenever niece is inside, we are missing security for medicine box or first aid box. Okay, when your kid is inside, we are missing security for first aid box. Am I right? Right? Obviously, kid can come, kid can open this tablets or tonics or whatever. Okay, he can misuse it. Right? Just try to understand a very layman terms. Okay, so the other way to look at it, if grandfather comes inside, if we go in different direction, he may not reach his medicine box, but he will end up within toys, or let's say if any some skating kind of toys are there in between, he may fall down, right? So point is you are getting disturbed by each other. So when niece is inside the room, okay, we are missing security for a medicine box. So when grandfather is inside room, we are missing security for toys. Okay, you can imagine like that, right? So then what is the solution, sir, here? Solution is simply construct a wall here, right? Construct a wall, and what do you do is give another entry here. Okay, so this is simple, right? Now your grandfather, okay, tell your grandpa, just you enter from here, grandpa, so that you will get access to your own data, that is your medicines. And tell to your niece, obviously, okay, you leave it just like that, niece will come inside and automatically he or she will play with only the toys, right? Now we have found the solution. How? By separating the data. Sir, which data I have separated? Have you separated one toy and one medicine box? No. All toys into one side, all medicine boxes at another side. Means related data. Please understand this term. Related data, meaningful data only we have separated together in the form of a group. Listen the terms very properly. Related data you are putting in a side. Okay, right? Like, so that is this is also concept of clustering. Okay, technically if I have to talk in detail, machine learning algorithm, one of the machine learning algorithm called clustering, right? So all cricket balls you put aside, all volleyball balls you put aside, or else all sketch pens you put aside, all pencils you put aside. In the mix of whole junk, you are separating the data and separating in the form of a group, right? Likewise, coming to the OOPS concept, very simple. We have to say separating the related data in the form of a group. Okay, just coin that word. Now let me continue. The very first example, what I have, first challenge, what I have told you is we are missing security for global variable. Okay, you can, if you want, you can take this diagram. This helps for you understanding OOPS concepts very easily. Okay, right. So let me first. Okay, I'll give 1 minute quickly. Just draw a rough sketch. Okay, so let me proceed with highlighting the points. Shall I erase this diagram? Can I receive some chat responses? Yes, no? Yeah? Okay, cool. Okay. The problems we'll try to highlight. Missing security for global variables. Okay. Customer data is missing security from employee functions, and employee data is missing security from customer functions. Okay, so this is the very first point which you have to understand, is we are missing security for the global variables. Okay, so next point, see, now please try to understand this logic. See, your interest is only to withdraw some money. Okay, who are you? You are a customer, right? Your interest is you have to withdraw money. So whenever you are doing withdraw, your entire logic gets executed. That's what the challenge problem with the procedure oriented programming language, right? You cannot say I want to execute this program, but memory allocation should happen only to the, let's say, only to the uh, first two variables, right? Because I am executing customer data. Okay, so only withdraw function I would like to execute only first three variables are customer variables. Only for customer variables, if memory allocation happens, I am good. Okay, so interpreter, please only do that. If you are saying, it will not work. Whenever you are executing this kind of program, when I say this kind of program, a program which is written in procedure oriented mechanism, right? So memory allocation will gets create for memory allocation happens for all the global variables. So what I can tell you is, unnecessarily memory is getting create for all the global variables whenever you are in need of only to work with the customer data. Okay, so vice versa, whenever you are need of in employee data, only employee global variables memory allocation is fine, but unnecessarily customer data memory allocation is also happening, so wastage of memory, right? So that is what the another point I can highlight. Just take down, whenever we run about code, okay, memory gets allocated for all the variables. Memory gets allocated for all the variables. Even if you try to access customer functions, but still memory is memory gets allocated to all the variables. Okay, understanding my point? Even if you are working for one module, all the other modules, variables, they module means task. Okay, customer task, employee task here. Okay, even if you are working for employee task, customer task variables also gets uh, memory gets allocated. Okay, now just write down the last point. For all the global variables, for all the global variables of the program, right, memory gets allocated only for once. This is very very important point. In fact, every point is very important, you should understand. Okay, so we can store only one customer data only in the memory. We can store only one customer data in the memory, right? So what do you mean by this is, so basically whenever a program gets executed, global variables gets allocated with some memory, right? So memory allocation happens only for once, right? So you can able to store only one customer data in your memory, right? But whenever you are working for a banking application, your intention is like that program will work for only one customer. If that is the case, right, today you cannot see any bank website, right? So but actually how it works, tell me. In real time, daily hundreds and thousands of customer will register into banks, right? So that customer related data is keeping on gets create dynamically. So how it is possible, sir? That is possible with the concept of oops only, that I will make you understand, but try to understand the drawbacks or problems, I can say, right? Challenges, I can say. And one more important point, guys. See, we are not studying object oriented programming concepts because there are some challenges in procedure oriented mechanism. That is not the way for you to understand. Getting my point? Procedure oriented see, generally in your engineering subjects also, somebody who is teaching object oriented programming concepts, what they do is they corner procedure oriented programming language, right? They say that it is useless, that is waste, this that cannot do this operation, that operation. So that's the reason people introduced object oriented mechanism, right? That is super. Likewise, people will keep on praise, right? So problems or drawbacks or differences people highlight, and the highlighting all the time they will corner procedure oriented programming language is useless, is waste, kind of. No, that is not the way for you guys to understand. Please remember one point. Okay, we have please understand, we have different sets of projects in real time to perform. Okay, imagine these are some set of projects in real time you have to perform. Okay, and you have what, you have procedure oriented mechanism, you have object oriented mechanism to perform, imagine, right? So what, how the story I'm constructing, you have to understand here is, some set of projects in real time, it is always better to use procedure oriented programming language, right? Some set of projects in real time, right, if you use procedure oriented mechanism, you are facing some challenges, you will face some challenges. So that is the reason I am recommending you guys to go ahead and implement these set of projects using object oriented concepts, right? So that's how you have to understand. It doesn't mean that every project in object oriented in oops only you have to implement, so that your life will be easy. Okay, so don't go for procedure for all projects. This is not the understanding, guys. So this is the way how I am showing the diagram. This is what the actual scenario is. So some specific applications you have to go with procedure oriented mechanism only. Some specific applications it's better to go with object oriented, so that your life will be easy. Okay, right. So I have already given one example. So tell me one example which you have to utilize for procedure, a project which we have to utilize for a procedure, and tell me an example which we have to use for object oriented concept. Let me tell you, I have already given, but let me tell you. I told you your television remote, right? Your television remote, you remember when I discussed the functions concept, right? It will contain plus button, it will contain minus button, it will contain p up, p down kind of buttons, right? With the overall like 30 buttons will be there in your approx 30 buttons will be there on your remote. Every button is operating, right? Doing some functionality behind a function must have written, right? So even though you clicking, your dad clicking, your mom clicking, your neighbor clicking, your enemy clicking, right? So Narendra Modi clicking also, yeah, that a remote will work. How that remote is an electronic circuit board. On top of one electronic circuit board, a software program has gone and sat. So that software program, I'm telling you have to implement using procedure. Means what? Functional concept. Okay, functions nature is what? Whomsoever come and execute, it will work, right? Whomsoever click on the button, it will work. So that is the one of the examples. So basically hardware level, okay, hardware level applications, embedded level applications, right? Majorly people tend to work with procedure oriented, like your automation is there, okay, your automation concept, okay, RPA, okay, functions a lot. Your IoT is there, IoT. You go and show me IoT programming in object oriented concept, it will not be, right? 90+% of the IoT programming will be happening through functions only, right? Your RPA automation, your what is that, automation testing selenium tool is there, okay, there you have to use Python, you have to write Python scripts there, again you'll write Python functions only, okay, selenium for testing. So don't ever think that we are overcoming the oops principles, procedure oriented programming is useless. So that is the reason from now on we are studying object oriented programming. Don't ever please think on those lines, okay? Procedure oriented is also superb, okay, but for some sort of projects procedure oriented is having some problems. So what is that some sort of projects? The right side, if you come across, you'll have to understand web application, right? Whenever you are working with the web applications, okay, so your procedure will not work. Whenever you are working with the middleware applications, okay, your middleware applications, your procedure will not work, okay. Whenever you are working with the MVC architecture, okay, MVC architecture kind of applications, your procedure will not work. Whenever you are working with the database applications, your procedure will not work, right? So here you have to have first understanding of sir, what is web application, what all will be involved in this, what is middleware application, what all are involved in this, MVC model view controller architecture, what are involved in this, what is database application, what are all involved in this. So this you will have to experience based on your projects, okay. But anyways, don't worry, we will be seeing all these kind of projects in our further sessions, right? Point is, I'm just trying to highlight some sort of basic differences between object oriented and procedure oriented. First remove that point in your mind. Procedure are useless. That's the reason we go and praise object oriented. And the object, you go and ask in any of the classroom in engineering. I have been to more than 100+ engineering colleges and delivered sessions in my last 6-7 years of you know job role, okay. So whereas overall I have 10+ years of experience, but in the early stage of my career I worked a lot with the universities. So I've been to multiple uh, you know colleges. I've interacted with the thousands of students, and whenever I got chance, I in such some situations, I whenever I asked this question, everybody was pointing out procedure is useless, sir. That's the reason, these are the problems in procedure, so that's the reason we should not go for procedure, we have to go for object oriented. People will corner it. That's how teachers have groomed students in that way. To be frank, out of 100 today engineering colleges, 95 faculties will also speak out this only: procedure has got some problem, that is the reason we are going for object oriented. If procedure has got problem, tell me why today all IoT applications are written in procedure oriented, why not object oriented? Go and ask this question to your faculty, they cannot answer. Okay, why that remote program is being worked in functional programming, right? Why this automation happens a lot using functions concept? You ask this, nobody will respond to you. Okay, so these are all bookish knowledge. Okay, so forget about it. Point what you have to understand is both are important. For some sort of projects, procedure is better. For some sort of projects, object is better. That you have to slowly understand for which what is important. Okay, so shall I erase this diagram? I hope my rough work is helpful for you. I recommend you guys to take this rough work in your notes as well. Okay, so today is first class of procedure. No much programs. You have to really understand the concept of procedures, object oriented concept. So let me remove this. Okay, right. Okay, let me give last point, and this comes from experience only. Okay, you don't see this point in any of the textbooks as such, or like any documentation of object oriented wherever you go. All right, this comes with only experience. Okay, so developers will lose control on source code. Okay, developers will lose control on source code uh, when, okay, at in some situations, okay, in some situations, okay, or while debugging your code. What do you mean by this, sir? This is a very simple point you have to understand. I don't know in your C language, whenever I believe most of you have got experience in C language. Okay, even if you don't have also, not to worry, just listen like a story next 2 minutes. See, when you must have done linked list coding, you must have done linear list, double linked list coding, right, in your data structures, right? So these are all the in C language. If you implement, that is nothing but called procedure oriented. So how many number of lines you have written in that code? I can say 300 plus lines, right? So easily, right, data structure programs will be minimum 300 plus lines. Okay, which your engineering first year or second year projects, correct, not project, in fact experiments. Okay, 300 plus lines. This 300 plus lines, when you face some 5 6 errors, tell me how much of time it has you have taken to debug this program, right, to find out the errors, right? You will have, first of all, this open and close braces minimum some 50 pairs. Okay, am I right or wrong? Right. So, and separation of code in blocks, and checking the error line by line checking. Okay, so even though your compiler is helping you where are the errors, but still you will face some challenges in overcoming these debugs. Okay, so your source code is 300 lines, you're facing the challenge, but in real time, imagine like 5,000 lines will be there. Okay, and 5,000 lines is a mix of, it's a mix of 120 functions, imagine. And it will having, like, let's say 200 global variables, imagine, right? And you'll have like if for while these things will be there as usual as part of building logic, right? 200 global variables, 120 functions of overall logic, 5,000. This is how your real-time projects will be, right? Such a huge logic whenever you are writing using procedure oriented programming language, right? At a stage, for sure you will lose the control. Okay, debugging is like, if 3 errors, 4 errors, like, certain points you will find out, but where the code is getting stuck. Okay, so these challenges you will face. That's the reason I am telling to you, this is what happened in the late 80s. Many software developers suicide. They went to they have become mad. Okay, after all coding for so long time, they have become mad people. This is fact, guys. Okay, why? And some people have died also. Some people did suicide, right? So because that's how it is. When you go for procedure oriented programming, the program works like only one big long thread. Okay, and where is the challenge you're facing, you will not come to know that easily, right? So that is the reason I have written this point, which you have to understand. Developers will lose control on source code in some situations, right? Or debugging the code. So that is the reason. This is one of the major reason I can tell you. People have decided we have not code, we should not go ahead and code only in this format. We should come up with some new format. That's where in early 90s I could say this object oriented programming got stabilized. Okay, right? So these are all some sort of challenges when you go for procedure oriented. Then how are we overcoming these challenges, sir? Right? So just let me highlight that. So this is what the example you've been saying. Couple of people data you put here, it means you're missing security. That is what you are trying to understand, right? So now we have to understand, we overcome this problem with one of the oops principle called encapsulation. Okay, called encapsulation. What is that encapsulation? We'll try to understand now. So just write down, to overcome above problems, we to go need to go for a principle of oops called encapsulation. So very first principle we are trying to discuss on oops. Okay, so what is encapsulation? Encapsulation means what? You all know capsule. You must have taken minimum one tablet in your lifetime, right? Capsules, right? You capsule is like, if you rotate the left side, and if you open it, inside of capsule you will have very small circle, round balls. Am I right? So that balls are medicine. Those balls are like, for fever you have separate capsule, for headache you have separate capsule, right? In that capsule inside, what are the small balls are there for fever, you can't use those small balls for headache. Am I right? Right. So you're putting all the related small balls in one place, and you're closing with one door. Okay, that is what I'm telling you. Encapsulating means what? Encapsulating means a concept of, it is a concept of binding or grouping related data. Okay, related data members with its related functionalities, with its related functionalities is known as encapsulation. Okay, so if you have really understood, we have constructed a wall in the layman example, and we said now we are having two different rooms. You can put heading, this is toy room, the other is like, grand uh, kid room or grandfather room. You put your headings in front of your door of the rooms, and you say that this is toy room, you say that it is grandfather room. Likewise, how you have to separate the data in real time is with the concept of encapsulation. Now you see I will do one thing. You can rewrite some logic here. Okay, control X. I will do like this. And what I will do, you just take this, you just take this first, this logic, and you say this is customer group. Okay, related data you put together, and you can call it as like a group. Okay, this is customer group. Okay, please call it as like a customer group. And likewise what you do is you bring in all the bottom is also one. So this three variables and bottom three functions, you call it as like a employee employee group. Okay, please write down this in your notes. Again, this program putting this customer data aside and employee data aside. Now you are telling that these are all separate groups, right? Sir, why you have not kept e name and c name in the same place? Why you have separated e name and c name? You should understand we are separating the related data. Okay, that is the reason I am quoting this point. Related, meaningful data. You should not club up this data one night. One task data and another task data as such, right? So related data you are clubbing up together. That is called group in layman terms. Okay. So this is you call customer group. This is called employee group. Okay. You grouped, I guess. So let me proceed. Okay. This is how your employee group. Now I'm proceeding. Okay. After writing two groups, advantage. Let's write down. Advantage is whatever the group whatever the group you execute. Here the advantage is, you can write here, the advantage is whatever the group you execute for that particular group only memory for that particular group only memory gets execute. Okay, memory gets execute or create. For that particular group only memory gets create. Okay, right. Are you getting my point? So only for that particular group only memory gets create. So this is roughly we have grouped, but in practical, this group is called in practical this group is called class. Okay, in practical this group is called class. Okay, we implement above concept in class class. Okay, so what is a class? What is a class? Now first time you are getting introduced to class. So what is a class? In object oriented programming you have to know very much clearly what is the class and what is an object. Okay, because entire concept will be running around with the class and object only. So first of all, what is a class? Class is a syntax. It's a syntax. Okay, it's a simple syntax, or you can say structure. Okay, class is a syntax or structure which is used to group the related data members and related functionalities. Related data members and related functionalities. Okay, fine. So you saw above two examples, like customer group and custom employee group I was speaking. You can tell them as customer class and employee class. We are going to write them, but try to understand for now what is class. Class is an executable syntax. Okay, right. Okay, so what class contains? Class contains following. Okay, contains three types of variables and three types of methods. Okay, variables, when I say data variables, we prefer to store data. And what do you mean by method? Method, we prefer to do some operation. Okay, operations. Okay, right. So what are these three variables we will try to understand? Static variables, non-static variables, or instance variables. This contains multiple names, or object object variables. Okay, it contains static, non-static, and object variables. Third one is local variables. Local variables. Okay, right. And three types of methods you can write: static methods, non-static methods, or instance methods, or object methods. One second. Okay, so this are non-class methods. Okay, so these are the properties of class. Class contains three variables, three types of variables, and three types of methods, right? Okay, so basically if you have to define, okay, so let's go ahead and define some class. Okay, class. Okay, sample class, control S. Let's say now class you will write with the keyword class, and let us say you will write some word that is class name. Class name. Test is what my class name. The moment when you write class name, immediately colon you will put. Okay, so this is what the class defining syntax: class name, colon. The moment when you put colon, automatically you understand cursor will be into the fifth place. Okay, so this is sample class to test doc string. So what do you mean by doc string? Doc string means in this class test, what kind of code I am going to write, which project code I am going to write, what functionalities I am going to implement. Okay, so these things we will write in the doc string. Okay, I told you what is doc string. Doc string means what? It is like, meta information about the class. Okay, it's like manual of the class, what all you are writing. Okay, right. Now let me try to execute this. Let me write help test. Sir, help keyword we have used for where, if you remember in the collections, help list, help tuple, help set, help dict. I have shown, right? Help str. Why the reason I told you to use help list, help tuple? Because to know what are all methods which are present in list, in that situation I have opened. Am I right or wrong? Means to know the properties of list class, to know the metadata of a list class, what are all there in the list class, tuple class, we have gone ahead and seen using the command help test, right? So today we are going to create a custom class, user defined class, that is test class, right? And this test class, what it is going to perform, let us see. Help test F5. Sir, can you guys remember this kind of syntax we have seen somewhere, right? Help on class list in module main. Okay, So, and it has shown entire history of like metadata of like this in blue color. You remember in last week sessions we have seen, right? So that's how it is. Whenever you write a doc string, some class to test doc string, can you see that some class to test doc string? So this has come in the metadata. Likewise, so now let me write down another point here. Okay, help list, for your clarity I'm telling. Okay, squeeze. Okay, can you see help on class test class list? List is written by Guido van Rossum and his team. Test is written by myself. Okay, tomorrow you will start writing programs, and your programs also contains metadata. How? By using your doc string. Okay, now you see class list. Okay, so this is all this built-in mutable sequence. This is all the doc string people have given in class list. Understanding? So this is all the doc string what I have. This is all the doc string which your class list has got, right? Okay, now basically what the point you have to understand is, okay, so you take this exam, you have written this, you have executed. Okay, so writing this class, okay, does not make any sense. Okay, writing any class does not make any sense. Why, sir? See, class, okay, I'll tell you. You just writing flower does not make any sense. Flower is a class. It contains some smell, it contains petals, leaves, like thrones as such. So point is you cannot show me a flower, right? You can show me a flower which has fulfilled by somebody called object, right? So what is that? Let's say jasmine. You can show me a jasmine, but you can never show me a flower in your lifetime. Am I right or wrong? You can show me a object of flower, that is rose, which is fulfilling the property of flower class, right? What are the properties of flower class? It has got some good smell. It has got sepal, petal. Likewise, okay. Let's say fruit. What is fruit? Fruit is a class. Can you give me a fruit? You cannot give me a fruit in your lifetime. Not only you, your parents, your teacher, your principal, okay, even to that matter, Narendra Modi also cannot give fruit to me, right? What you can give a fruit in the form of mango, right? So here you can give fruit in the form of banana. So these are called objects. Okay, so why we are calling it as like objects? These things are fulfilling, okay, so these things are fulfilling the properties of fruit class. So these things are fulfilling the properties of flower class. Understanding? So likewise, class test properties somebody has to fulfill. Okay, so who is that somebody in our concept? Object. Okay, so what is an object, sir? So please write down. Okay, so just write down. Let's say there is a customer class in bank, lakhs of employees will try to access class. Okay, this concept we make it happen by creating object to the customer class. Okay, by creating object to the customer class. See, 10 customers are filling the form, 10 people are standing in the in the 10 different sections, okay, places, and submitting form to 10 different employees. All 10 different employees has to enter the customer data into the system. Okay, so all 10 different employees are accessing that customer class, right? So how it is possible, sir? That is possible only with the concept of objects. Okay. See, on the on the customer class object on the customer class objects, we can perform customer operations. On the customer class object only, we perform customer operations. Okay, so point is, you have to understand, without creating object nothing will progress. Okay, so what is an object? Okay, the concept of allocating memory space for non-static variables of a class. Concept of allocating memory space for non-static variables of a class at runtime dynamical. Technically this is little tough to understand, known as object. Okay, this is the actual technical meaning, right? The concept of allocating memory space for non-static variables of a class at a runtime or dynamically, both are same. Runtime, dynamically is known as object, right? Okay, this point, if you, even if you do not understand also, that's fine. But in a very first class of oops concepts, what you need to understand is, okay, instance of a class is called object. Okay, instance of a class is called object, right? So physically appearing the features of a class is nothing but called object in a layman term. Okay, so basically instance means what? Instance means dynamic memory allocation. Okay, dynamic, whenever for the class, dynamic memory allocation is happening means what? Object is getting create. Okay, now what is the object creation statement? You write down, so reference variable is equals to class name. Okay, reference variable is equals to class name, right? Okay, so what is this, sir? What is this, tell me? Okay, so this is called your object creation statement. Okay, so or one second. Okay, object creation statement is what you just put heading, and in the middle write down reference variable is equals to class name. Okay, right. So what is this, sir? What is this? Reference variable equals to class name. So basically, which is object here? Right side one or left side one? Actually speaking, tell me, left or right? It is this one. This is the object of your class, right? This is the object of your class, and this is the reference variable. Where is object located in the memory? This variable will know that. Okay, so what is that, sir? I'll tell you. See, whenever you are writing a sample class, okay, so you have written class test, right? Sorry, class test. It's like, so some logic you are writing, and then what is that you are doing? T1 is equals to test is what you are writing. So this is what the object creation statement. T1 is equals to test. The moment whenever you create object like this, what happens? Object gets create in the memory. When object gets create in the memory, it contains some address. So these address is pointed out in the T1. Okay, so what T1 contains, sir? T1 contains indirect address of your object. T1 is reference variable. It contains indirect address of your object. Okay, sir, what do you mean by indirect address? See, indirect address of your object. Okay, basically indirect address of object contains two things. What are two things? Class name, understand this point, very important. Class name and hexadecimal representation of hash code. Okay, right. So first, very first point, what you have to understand is, okay, indirect address of your object contains two things: class name and hexadecimal representation. So first of all, why not direct address? Why indirect address means this? You have to understand. A Python interpreter will take the direct address. See, Python interpreter, just I'm trying to Python interpreter, okay, will take direct address which is given by operating system. Okay, so it will convert, it will convert direct address into indirect. Write down these points: indirect address. Okay, and put that indirect address into a reference variable. Okay, put that indirect address into a reference variable. Sir, what happens if Python interpreter directly put a direct address in T1? What is the problem? Why it is converting direct address into indirect address? I will tell you why. The reason Python is storing object address in reference variables in the indirect form, because Python does not encourage working with the direct address concept. Okay, there are some security issues that is altogether a separate story, right? So you should not work with the direct addresses. Okay, that's the reason. That's the reason. You know what is direct address? If you all know C language, I believe, right? What is direct address? Direct address is nothing but called pointer. Am I right or wrong? Pointer of a variable is nothing but called address. So pointers concept is not supported in Python language, to that matter even Java language also, because direct addressing concept is not good practice. Okay, simple. In a very layman terms, if you have to understand, okay, so you came from your hometown to study engineering in Hyderabad. Okay, right. So what your dad is doing? Dad is dropping you in your hostel, and he is leaving to hometown. Okay, right. And never ever dad allowed you to come to home directly or go to Hyderabad directly. Okay, so your dad, the intention is like, you have to be safe, right? My intention is like, you should not know where is railway station, right? So if you know railway station, you will go on by your own. You will go and you will online book ticket, you will go to railway station, from there you will catch train, you will go to your hometown. Okay, so since you know the direct address of railway station, you are manager, you are on by your own, you are going to your home without your dad permission, right? I just try to understand, right? Okay, in this case, what dad is doing is, dad is not letting you know where is railway station. Rather, dad is telling to his friend, whenever my daughter should come to home, okay, I will inform you. You please drop her in the railway station and ensure you that girl get into train. Okay, so this girl never know where is railway station. So when this girl never know where is railway station, she cannot come to home, go to home on by her own. You understood the very basic example. Some girl has to dependent on that uncle. Okay, uncle has to drop her in the railway station, and he has to ensure of that girl is getting the getting into the train. Likewise, if you have understood the very simple layman example, T1 should never know where is this object address present in the memory. Okay. So if T1 does gets to know that, it leads to some security challenges. So that's the reason Python interpreter will not allow objects to work on the direct addresses. So it will convert direct address into indirect address and it will put in the reference variable, right? So what does indirect address of your object contains? It contains both class name as well as hexadecimal representation of hash code. Getting my point? Okay. So sir, what happens? Can I create another object here? Let us say in my code t2 is equals to test. Can I do this? Yes, you can do this. So what is the impact of this? Impact of this, what? Another memory location gets to create, and this address, this object address is taken and kept in T2. Understanding? Right? So left side variables are called reference variable. See guys, now you think that this is a new syntax, but you have got introduced to this long back in the very third or fourth session only. A equals to 10. What is this, sir? What is this? Tell me. 10 is an integer object. Left side things are called reference variables. You remember I've been pointing out with one diagram in the early days of our sessions. Likewise likewise you remember. And here I have written 10 is an integer object which is storing in some double one double two double some number. So this is the indirect address of your object 10, which is located by reference variable A. So when you have understood this concept in the early days, the actual implementation of integer class or the test class, to that matter, any class, this is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. Okay. So let's proceed with a small program in continuation of this, and then I'll close. Okay. So 2 minutes. People who are willing to go, you can go. Only one line I'm going to write. Same lines, in fact. T1 is equals to test. So print T1. Okay, I'm just removing this help test. And now I'm going to define M1. M1 is a method. Self is the parameter in M1 of test. Okay, write down this program. I'll clearly explain tomorrow. So print T1, T1 dot M1. Okay, now T2 is equals to test, print T2, T2 dot M1. Okay, so control S, F5. You can see here indirect address contains class name and hexadecimal representation. Indirect address contains class name and hexadecimal representation 7089C8. So print T1. Okay, so this T1 first object is sitting in 708, second object is sitting in 9C8. Okay, so we have called methods with the object. So I'll explain this in length tomorrow. Just take this. If you have done, you can leave. Thank you.